My name's Martin Grunewald. I'm the Acting Chief Payments Officer of BankservAfrica. We basically the ACH of or the clearinghouse, maybe a better term and more understood, for South Africa. But we also have an interest across the region where we also run the regional clearinghouse for the SADC region. And I think our interest in being at Sibos and as a company is really to see what other people are doing around the world, but also to show people what we're doing and what our unique thoughts are from a developing economy perspective, but also from a different type of region like the African region, which sometimes is not always well represented at a place like Sibos. There's always a benefit of a payments infrastructure, but I think some of the jargon is being used too much. You know, we hear things like leapfrogging and what is the next generation. I think we sometimes have to step back, and my experience looking and visiting many of the countries in Africa, we do all these loose standing pieces of technology. And sometimes they don't talk to each other very effectively. And I think maybe the time has come for us to just to pause a little bit, to think about what we're doing and maybe design more effectively and more holistically our payment systems. I think the world is changing. I think things are becoming faster. They are expecting more. And I think we've got to get good at designing those type of things for the future. So I think from a BankServ perspective, we want to get that right in South Africa, but we also have a passion for the rest of the continent, and I hope that we can influence that journey. I think the biggest thing that BankServ is or operates as is a mutual. And when we go and design that digital infrastructure, it's as a mutual. So we're not a profit maximizing company. So when we go and design that mutual digital infrastructure, it really means in our world that we're going to become the plumbing. We'll go and design that base infrastructure, the plumbing of the payments environment. So for me, that's what it means. It's go and put the right base down, and from there on, people can innovate and they can go and build all the weird and wonderful things. And fintechs and startups can go and express themselves. But if you haven't built the plumbing, you know, having a fancy tap isn't going to help. The mistake that a lot of people do is jump into the technology too quickly. And I think there's a whole lot of work and time needs to be spent creating consensus, creating the design, understanding the problems you're trying to solve before you just jump into technology. There are plenty of vendors out there. There's plenty of people selling technology. You're going to find what you want when the time's right. But spend a little bit of time, breathe, and go and design properly. The fintechs will always be there. And I think the people will always be trying something new. What we need to understand, though, is all those things are loose standing. So most fintechs will design around a problem that they're trying to solve or an opportunity that they see. The more important thing is that do they have a base that they can work from? If we look at some of the things that have happened across our continent as an example, and I speak about Africa because that's what I'm familiar with. But if you look at Tanzania or Kenya, there's a lot of talk about what happened there around mobile and how mobile kind of almost took on the banks and became entrenched. But it doesn't solve the holistic economic problem. Those end up being closed loop. So M-Pesa talks to M-Pesa. So you can't really say that you've solved the economic problem of that country. So I think fintechs have a place and they will innovate, but it's almost the layer above the foundation we need to build. and allow them to express themselves. They'll always be there and they'll always play an important part. I think there's an adaptation that needs to happen where they become part of solving the problem and not taking a piece of technology and trying to find a use for it. And I think from a BankservAfrica perspective, we really feel we can make a difference.